Good afternoon, everyone. Please be seated. Routine proceedings, introduction of bills. The Honourable Member for Fort Garry.
I move, second by the MLA for Tyndall Park, that Bill 204, the Highway Traffic Amendment Act, be now read a first time.
Thank you. It's been moved by the Honourable Member for Fort Garry, seconded by the Honourable Member for Tyndall Park, that Bill number 204, the Highway Traffic Amendment Act, be now read a first time. The Honourable Member for Fort Garry.
Today I'm proud to introduce the Highway Traffic Amendment Act, Reason for Traffic Stop Bill, to ensure greater accountability and transparency in policing. It's simple but important change. When a driver is pulled over, the officer must state the reasons for the stop before doing anything else. If they don't, any evidence gathered from the stop becomes inadmissible. This is about building trust between communities and law enforcement. That trust starts with respectful, clear communication and legal guarantee that people understand why they're being stopped. While many experience routine traffic stops, we know that racialized communities have historically faced disproportionate and sometimes unjustified interactions. This bill helps ensure that every stop begins on a foundation of fairness. I want to thank Chris Gamby, spokesperson of the Criminal Defense Lawyers Association of Manitoba, for attending today in the gallery to support this legislation.
Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed and so ordered. The motion is accordingly passed. Committee reports. Committee reports. The Honourable Member for Elmwood.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the fifth report of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts.
Your Standing Committee on Public Accounts.
Dispense. The Honourable Member for Elmwood.
Honourable Speaker, I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Seine River, that the report of the committee be received.
And moved by the Honourable Member for Elmwood, seconded by the Honourable Member for Seine River, that the fifth report of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts be received. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed and so ordered. Tabling of reports. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Honourable Speaker, I'd like to table the sequence for the consideration of departmental estimates in the Committee of Supply for today only.
Ministerial statements. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. With the upcoming long weekend, we would like to wish everyone in Manitoba a happy and safe May long weekend. But this time around, we also want to be sure to remind everyone not to have campfires and to listen to evacuation orders to make sure that first responders can quickly respond to the various serious situations taking place in our province right now. As reported earlier this morning by the Manitoba Wildfire Service, we currently have 21 active fires and have so far had 80 fires to date. This is a significantly higher number than the average, so we encourage everyone to remain vigilant during this challenging time. In the PA-OCN, the fire is quite significant in size, with the Manitoba Wildfire Service reporting that this fire is now under control and some evacuees are able to return to their communities. In the RM of Piney, approximately 300 people were evacuated last night. The fire near Bird River around Nopaming National Park, Provincial Park remains very active and value protection efforts continue. The fire in the Lac du Bon area is still listed as active, with crews making progress in the region, but remains out of control. The fire near Ingolf, Ontario poses a significant threat to Whiteshell Provincial Park, so resources are being deployed to begin working on that fire. The province is declaring a state of emergency in the Whiteshell area, and we urge folks who do not need to be in the area to clear the way to allow emergency services to do what they need to do. I want to thank the folks on the front lines, all of those responding to the call of duty. And I would like to sincerely thank the crew of 44 firefighters who are here from BC to lend a hand we certainly appreciate the extra help. And as the Premier mentioned earlier this morning, as we come to grips with this situation, the news of loss of life turns these situations from emergency to tragedy. On behalf of the Government of Manitoba and all of our colleagues gathered here today, I offer sincere condolences to the family, friends, and community members who lost 2 of our own. As Manitobans, we join those affected in your time of mourning. The flags at the Legislature are flying at half-mast as a small gesture of sympathy towards the family and their loved ones. I would also like to take this opportunity, Honourable Speaker, to ask for a leave for a moment of silence immediately following my statement to commemorate the lives lost to this tragedy, those hurt, and the pain and the grief of the friends and family affected. Thank you.
Is there leave for a moment of silence? We will have a moment of silence, please. The honourable member for Swan River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I rise with a heavy heart and with deep care for the many families, communities and responders facing what may be one of the most difficult wildfire seasons our province has ever experienced. We are all heartbroken to learn of the tragic loss. Yesterday, the RCMP recovered the bodies of Sue and Rich Noel near Wendigo Road in the rural municipality of Lac du Bonnet. They were someone's family, someone's friend. Their loved ones we hold in our hearts during this unimaginable time. This is a devastating reminder of how quickly these fires can escalate and how dangerous they truly are. Nearly 1,000 people have now been forced from the Lac du Bonnet area. Homes have been lost near Wendigo Beach. Entire communities are being uprooted in an instant. To our firefighters, RCMP, emergency responders, Manitoba Hydro crews, volunteers, and all who have stepped forward in the face of danger, you are our heroes. And to everyone, every evacuee, to every person waiting for news, wondering when they can go home, carrying the weight over loss or uncertainty, please know the province stands with you. We see you, we grieve with you, and we will walk the road with you. The days ahead will continue to test us, but I know that we are a province built to rise up in moments like this. We rally together, we hold one another up, and we find our strength not just in fire trucks or helicopters, but in human compassion and the will to endure together. Stay safe, stay connected, and let's continue to care for one another with all the strength and heart that make Manitoba home. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to acknowledge the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. As allies, we have a responsibility to call out acts of homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia every time they occur. These can be obvious attacks on the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, like when members opposite ran a failed election campaign featuring bus benches targeting transgender youth. Or when the face of that same transphobic campaign, the member for Fort White and the new leader of the opposition, doubled down against Bill 43 and against more than 52 LGBTQ2IA+ Manitobans and their allies, asking our government to enshrine protections for gender expression in the Manitoba Human Rights Code. I commend those brave Manitobans for showing up and sharing their experiences in support of this bill, even in the face of some members in this very chamber speaking out against their right to safety, acceptance, and their humanity. I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge our colleague, the member for Kirkfield Park, who chaired those incredibly difficult meetings at Standing Committee. And he did so with such grace and compassion and pride. And on behalf of our whole team, we are so incredibly proud to work alongside him. But homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia can also be more insidious, like feeding into misinformation around pronoun use or the 2S LGBTQIA community in general. Or it can look like the member for Lactabani, continuously and deliberately misgendering members of this House, who are his own colleagues, of whom he's worked with for many years. When members opposite can't even be bothered to address their own colleagues with respect in this chamber, how can 2S LGBTQIA+ Manitobans expect any respect from any of those members opposite or from their party? Around the world, we continue to see increasing attacks on the rights of 2S LGBTQIA people. There has never been a more important time in our history to make sure this community, our relatives, are protected. I'd remind Manitobans, today isn't just about empty words recognizing the 2S LGBTQI community. It's actually about putting an end to homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia whenever and wherever we see it. Our government is committed to showing Manitobans and the 2S LGBTQ2I community these acts of ignorance, hatred, and fear have no place in our province, whether they happen here in Winnipeg, or in Steinbach, or in La Vérendrye, or in Borderland, or in Springfield, Rashot, or even right here in this chamber. Miigwech.
The honourable member for Portage La Prairie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm honoured to rise today to recognize International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, which takes place this Saturday, May 17th. It was less than 30 years ago that Manitoba elected its first openly gay member of the Legislature. Our province and country have come a long way since then in recognizing the right of all people to dignity and equal opportunity. Look no further than across the aisle with Manitoba's first gendered non-conforming MLA and its first openly transgender MLA. We acknowledge today something that has been dismissed for far too long, that the full participation of Manitobans from the 2S LGBTQ+ community in our society is vital to building a stronger social and economic fabric in our province. That is why we do what we do in this chamber, to ensure every Manitoban, no matter who they are, is afforded the dignity, freedom, and safety that they deserve. In this chamber, we represent all Manitobans and stand with all Canadians. Being part of the 2S LGBTQ+ community does not make anyone less of a Manitoban or a Canadian. Bullying, hatred, or violence will never be acceptable, no matter the community they belong to. While the NDP thrive on division and hostility, we on this side prioritize fostering communities that are safe, healthy, and prosperous for all Manitobans to thrive. And I encourage all Manitobans to treat each other with respect, dignity, and as fellow human beings. So as we enter Pride Week this weekend, I want to assure the 2S LGBTQ community that my colleagues and I will keep working to ensure Manitoba is the place where you can grow and thrive. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I rise to recognize and celebrate International Vyshyvanka Day, also known as Ukrainian Embroidered Shirt Day, which is observed on the third Thursday of May each year. This day marks an important commemoration for Ukrainian community members as well as their friends and allies. The embroidery of Vyshyvanka clothing, with its symbolic patterns, color, and historical significance, have been preserved by dedicated artists. Over time, the ancient and symbolic origins found in these garments have evolved to embrace modern fashionable styles while continuing to highlight this prestigious and cherished component of Ukrainian identity. As the Ukrainian diaspora has expanded across lands and ocean, Ukrainian immigrants continue to play a vital role in Canada's diverse cultural landscape and identity. Over time, Manitoba has become a home for numerous Ukrainian immigrants whose contributions have been instrumental in the province's economic prosperity and rich cultural tapestry. Today, Manitoba is home to more than 160,000 people of Ukrainian descent, making us the home of one of the largest populations in the country. On this day, by donning our own Vyshyvanka, we celebrate the significant role of the community and their vibrant contributions to our ethnoculturally diverse identity. Although Vyshyvanka Day is typically a festive occasion, it is important to acknowledge Ukraine's present struggle to preserve its sovereignty. For the last 3 years, the Vyshyvanka has become a tangible symbol of the pride and tenacity of Ukrainian people in the face of external aggression. The pride it inspires will outlive attempts to erase Ukrainian identity. Manitoba continues to extend its solidarity to those impacted by the war in Ukraine. I would like to thank the many organizations and institutions that continue to support the resettlement of Ukrainian newcomers in our province. Your dedication for your community outreach and support are helping so many. Some such people join us in the gallery today. There is Joan Lewandowski, Ivan Kutsak, and Valentina Harishko. I wish you all a very happy Vyshyvanka Day. I hope that peace, prosperity, and security will soon return to the Ukraine. Thank you.
The honourable member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Manitoba has a long and proud history of celebrating Ukrainian heritage. So it brings me great honor to recognize Vyshyvanka Day, an international celebration of Ukrainian culture, heritage, and resilience. The richly embroidered Vyshyvanka is more than just clothing. It is a symbol of Ukrainian identity that carries with it stories of family and tradition and a sense of belonging. Each pattern and symbol, passed down through generations, holds deep meaning. These embroidered designs are believed to protect the wearer and bring strength and good luck. Honourable Speaker, in both peace and conflict, Ukrainians have worn the Vyshyvanka with pride as an act of remembrance, cultural pride, and resistance. Today, we join millions around the world in wearing the Vyshyvanka to stand in solidarity with our Ukrainian communities here in Manitoba and the people of Ukraine. I encourage all Manitobans, if you have one, to proudly wear your Vyshyvanka today. In doing so, we send a message of compassion and unity. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Prior to member statements, there's some guests in the gallery that will be leaving shortly, so I would like to point out that seated in the public gallery, we have from Gordon Bell School 30 grade 9 students under the direction of Peter Vanderhoot, and they're guests of the honourable member for Wolseley. We welcome you all here today. Member statements. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Farmers market season is almost here. I'm thrilled that the Wolseley constituency is home to 2 markets that run throughout the summer and early fall. The West Broadway Farmers Market is hosted by the Good Food Club of the West Broadway Community Organization and takes place outside the Broadway Neighborhood Center every Wednesday starting on July 2nd. Rain or shine, community members will be able to find a wide range of local goods for sale: vegetables, baked goods, crafts, and more. The West Broadway Market hosts pop-ups throughout the fall selling honey, bison, and root vegetables, as well as a holiday market in December. I especially appreciate the fall feast that West Broadway Market puts on for neighbors to celebrate the harvest and all the ways in which they promote food security through workshops, teaching skills such as food dehydration or mushroom cultivation. Wolseley Farmers Market also draws in hundreds of folks seeking fresh produce, local grains, meat and fish, locally brewed beers, baked goods, and locally roasted coffee. Skillful local makers sell their jewelry, candles, pottery, and wearable art, while live music adds ambiance to the experience. Located at the corner of Westminster and Ethelbert, the Wolseley Farmers Market runs every Tuesday and Thursday starting June 4th. Farmers markets are a wonderful opportunity to bring communities together. We get to know our farmers while supporting local agriculture and many small businesses. I'm so grateful to the West Broadway Farmers Market and the Wolseley Farmers Market for their dedication and efforts towards bringing our communities together and supporting local vendors. I wish both a successful and busy season, and I hope to see you all there. Honorable Speaker, I have guests here today from the West Broadway Farmers Market, the West Broadway Community Organization, and Direct Farm Manitoba, and I wish to have their names included in Hansard. And I ask all members of the House to welcome them here today.
The Honourable Member for Agassiz.
Today, it is my privilege to acknowledge a remarkable milestone for Metcalf's Garage in Treeherne, as this family-owned business proudly celebrates its 125th anniversary. This extraordinary legacy began 5 generations ago when Thomas A. Metcalf founded the farm equipment business in Treeherne, eventually expanding into the sales of Ford Model Ts. By 1924, the company had achieved this impressive feat of selling 100 of these iconic vehicles in just 1 year. Following Thomas, ownership passed to Claire, then to Hillard, and subsequently to his 2 sons, Jack and Bruce Metcalf. Today we honor Neil Metcalf, along with his family and staff, as they carry on the tradition of excellence and uphold the distinction of being Canada's oldest Ford dealership. Neil has joined us here in the gallery today, and his staff have joined us virtually, watching from the garage. The facility, a certified Ford Millennium dealership, spans over 16,000 square feet on more than 4 acres of property. Metcalf's Garage boasts an extensive selection of new and pre-owned vehicles, a well-stocked parts department, and a team of certified Ford technicians ready to serve you. The garage currently employs 26 full-time staff members, and I've had the opportunity to visit the garage several times, and this spring I got to see the dedicated team hard at work. Metcalf's commitment to outstanding sales and service has not gone unnoticed. They have been awarded Ford's President Award continuously since 2009, which speaks volumes about their dedication to customer service and satisfaction. To celebrate this significant anniversary, an event is scheduled for July 11th at the Arena in Treeherne. In celebrating Metcalf's Garage, we pay tribute to the tireless efforts and commitment of the Metcalf family and their team, who have made a lasting impression in the community. May Metcalf Garage remind us that small businesses are the backbone of our towns, and through passion and determination, we can make a meaningful difference. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lajmodiere.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to acknowledge Moose Hide Campaign Day. This Indigenous-led movement recognizes the role men and boys have in addressing violence against women, children, and gender-diverse relatives. In 2011, Paul Lacerte and his daughter Raven were hunting near the Highway of Tears, a stretch of road in British Columbia known for the many Indigenous women who have gone missing. They used the hide of the moose to create the first moose hide pins. While the campaign began in Indigenous communities on the West Coast, wearing a moose hide pin has grown into a broader movement. Today, schools, workplaces, families, and entire communities are actively building futures centering the safety of women, children, and gender-diverse relatives. I want to thank all those taking action today, including those on the steps of the legislature. I want to uplift the women who have been doing this type of community care work for decades. For too long, gender-based violence has been framed as a women's issue. Campaigns on domestic and gender-based violence have often relied on the free and undervalued labor of women, particularly Indigenous and racialized women. They have ensured this crisis is part of the public consciousness, and it's well overdue that men and boys step up. The Moose Hide campaign and those like it play an important role in insisting men and boys have an active role to play in addressing this crisis. The campaign encourages men to challenge toxic ideologies surrounding masculinity and gender roles. Whether you're a man in politics, the trades, sports, business, public service, a grandfather or a nephew, every day you have an opportunity to model a healthier way to relate to your communities. For all who wear a moose hide pin, it is a commitment to contribute to safer spaces for all and an assurance to challenge unhealthy behaviors that you see in yourself and other men and boys. A huge thank you to Raven Lacerte and the entire Moose Hide campaign team for creating spaces for these conversations and for ensuring communities have the tools to build safer worlds for women, children, and gender-diverse relatives. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Honourable Speaker, today's statement is much more somber as I highlight the vast devastation wildfires are imposing on our province. My heart truly goes out to the families of Sue and Richie Knoll, who were tragically lost their lives as a result of the Lac de Bonnie fire. My thoughts are with their son, Emmett, and his girlfriend, who were able to escape injured but safe. The wildfires in my constituency near the community of Carrick have now progressed into a full-scale forest fire, resulting in the evacuation and immediate threat to 4 communities, including St. Lob, Badger, and Woodridge. The uncertainty of not knowing if your family home is safe is completely heart-wrenching. I had the opportunity to visit the evacuation centers last night and see some of the devastation created by these fires. Through the loss and fear, I was able to see what I am truly proud of as a representative of those communities, and that is the tight-knit support for each other. Neighbors were helping each other while fire crews from more than 8 different communities were battling some of the most intense fire conditions. What amazed me most were the farmers and neighbors coming together to help one another stay safe. The greatest example of this was the De Jong, Wolf, and Houseman farms, each from La Broquerie, more than 20 miles away, come together with their own equipment to haul more than 300,000 gallons of water that not only helped to save Moonshadow Holstein, one of the largest dairy farms in Manitoba, but also saved the entire community of St. Lob, including the Justice Minister's family cabin. My thoughts and prayers are with all those all the displaced families as they anxiously wait for conditions to improve. I would also like to thank and encourage the hundreds of provincial and municipal firefighters risking their lives to protect those of others. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kirkfield Park.
Honourable Speaker, today I rise to acknowledge and celebrate the 100th anniversary season of the Winnipeg Boys Choir, a true Manitoba treasure. Founded in 1925 by the Men's Musical Club of Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Boys Choir is the oldest freestanding boys choir in Canada, a fact that fills us all with hometown pride. I recently had the joy of attending their centennial concert titled All the Way Home, and I must tell you, it was an afternoon I soon won't forget. Sitting in the Crescent Fort Rouge United Church, hearing those young voices fill the space with such pure sound, from the smallest treble chorister to the confident young men of the senior chorus, I couldn't help but think of how many Manitoban families have been touched by this organization over its 100 years. The choir currently features 3 ensembles, creating opportunities for boys ages 6 to 21. What struck me during the concert was not just their technical precision, but the obvious joy on their faces as they performed. That kind of enthusiasm comes from the nurturing atmosphere created by artistic director Carolyn Boyes and conductors Albert Bergen and Spencer Duncanson. These educators don't just teach notes, they're helping shape confident young people who understand what it means to work together towards something beautiful. Our Winnipeg Boys Choir regularly performs alongside our city's artistic crown jewels, the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and Manitoba Chamber Orchestra. When you see these young people holding their own alongside professional musicians, it makes you sit up a little straighter in your seat. Their excellence was recently recognized at the 2024 Winnipeg Music Festival, where the senior chorus received the Lieutenant Governor's Trophy for Most Outstanding Solo or Group Performance. I ask my colleagues to join me in congratulating the members of the choir, artistic staff, board members, and proud parents who join us today in the gallery. Here's to another century of song.
Prior to oral questions, there are some guests in the gallery that I'm told have to leave before we'll be finished oral questions. So I draw all honorable members' attention to the public gallery, where we have with us today from the Heart and Stroke Foundation, Robin Jones Morell, Dale Ogden, Derek Newman, Amanda McVicker, Tracy Mady Locke, Shannon Bayluck, Jackie Ratz, Stevie Goller, Kayla Saiticki, Christine Hode. They are the guests of the Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors, Long-Term Care, the member from Union Station. On behalf of all honourable members, we welcome you here today. Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honourable Speaker, on behalf of myself, the member from Lac du Bonny, and our entire PC caucus, our hearts go out to the families and loved ones of the men and women who tragically lost their lives in the wildfires near Lac du Bonny. Names were just released: Sue and Rich Knoll. This is an unimaginable loss, and we extend our deepest condolences during this difficult time. To the fire crews, we thank you for your tireless service doing what you can to protect Manitobans from the devastation being witnessed. To local residents, please be safe, listen to your officials, evacuation orders, because sometimes you only have minutes to escape. To all Manitobans, know we have your back today as we fight to control the wildfires today and tomorrow when we come together to mourn and rebuild. I will have some specific questions for the Premier, but I thought I would allow him an opportunity to respond to this. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Speaker, collectively as Manitobans, we are all devastated at the loss of 2 beautiful and beloved individuals. We send our deepest condolences to their families, to their community who are all grieving right now. This is a very difficult time for Manitobans. I will say that we are seeing people come together in ways that are really monumental. It's important for people to stay connected. We cannot thank enough first responders, our firefighters, emergency responders who are working really day and night around the clock to keep people safe. I want to remind Manitobans to follow all safety orders as you hear them. It's a quickly evolving situation. We will keep you up to date, but certainly our deepest condolences to the families as we move
Time has
forward.
expired. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, one of the most important actions a government can do during a time of crisis is to ensure consistency in messaging. The Premier announces a state of emergency and urges Manitobans to avoid campfires. However, at the same time, his Minister of Environment and Climate Change has a different set of advice, which I tabled for the House today. Under this NDP minister guidance, quote, and I quote, campfires permitted between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., end quote, including Pinawa, Whiteshell, and Wallace Lake, to name a few. During a time of crisis, where people have sadly perished, properties destroyed, and firefighters exhausted. Why is the government not bringing in a blanket fire ban? Why take the risk?
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Speaker, it's really disappointing to see the Leader of the Opposition politicize a very, very serious issue, the most serious wildfire situation we've seen in our province very, very early on in the season. We're not going to politicize this issue. We are seeing already some devastating and tragic consequences of these wildfires. Our government is working with our emergency measures experts and teams, following their guidance and their expertise. This is a quickly evolving situation. We're getting the information out through our platforms to make sure Manitobans have up-to-date details, and we're going to continue to do so. We encourage and ask all Manitobans, please pay attention to that information, follow it exactly as it's presented. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, I'm not politicizing. I'm asking a question. That is our job, to ask questions of the minister. Right. If they don't want to answer the question, then don't be a minister. The rural municipality of Caldwell has put on a complete burn ban, which I would table. That includes no fire pits. Lundar Beach Provincial Park, which is in the arm of Caldwell, has, according to the minister, no fire restrictions. Campfires permitted any time. Talk about confusing. The RM is telling people to stop burning while the NDP...
Order. The Honourable Government bench will come to order. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
The RM is telling people to stop burning while the NDP minister says go ahead. Will the Premier pull his minister aside and explain that a blanket fire ban in provincial parks is required today to protect lives and property?
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Speaker, our government is working directly with Emergency Measures Office leadership. We're working directly with firefighters. We're working directly with reeves, mayors, municipalities, communities, park services office. We're working with everyone. Everyone is at the table working around the clock to make sure that Manitobans are as safe as possible and that our first responders and firefighters have clear access to keep people safe and do the work that they need to do. Honourable Speaker, we have shared information, and the Premier this morning shared a very clear message on this. We need folks to follow the advice that's being disseminated to the letter to make sure they're staying up to speed, and we're going to continue with all of our partners who apparently are not on the member opposite's watch.
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a new question.
Honourable Speaker, for this failing Premier, it's games before Manitobans. They voted against justice for the Jordan Reimer and for her family. They voted against removing interprovincial trade barriers. The NDP are more interested in playing games and taking credit than helping Manitobans. Honourable Speaker, the NDP voted against removing interprovincial trade barriers, but I promise you, next week, this NDP government is magically going to table a bill that's exactly the same as the one before. Why? Because they don't actually care about Manitobans, they care about playing games. Just like they did when they forced the MLA for Tyndall Park to pull her Kira's Law bill so they could take credit for it. What exactly in the free trade bill did the NDP find so objectionable that they had to vote against it, Honourable Speaker?
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Speaker, with the long weekend soon coming, we want to make sure that Manitobans stay safe. We want to ensure everyone does not have campfires, that they follow the advice of our firefighters and emergency measures offices who are keeping Manitobans up to speed. Again, I want to thank the reeves, mayors, municipalities, emergency measures offices. I want to thank the other jurisdictions who are here in Manitoba, putting their lives on the line to keep Manitobans safe. This is an all-hands-on-deck approach, rapidly evolving situation. Our government is working 24/7 to protect Manitobans and make sure they have accurate information, and we're doing that with everybody at the table as Manitobans. Unfortunately, the member for Fort White isn't on that team right now.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, I asked about justice for Jordan Reimer's family. Jordan, who was killed in a car accident, and this NDP government voted against it. I asked for answers on why they voted against the interprovincial trade barriers moving them, and no answer. Manitobans deserve answers. That's what their job is. It's our job to ask them. It was shocking to see the NDP MLA's fake sympathy while the family was sitting in the gallery crying. Honourable Speaker, a simple referral to an outside agency would have gone a long way in restoring people's faith in our justice system, faith in the Reimer family, and Manitobans. A faith shaken by this NDP government. It is a failed justice minister is so confident in his decision not to pursue charges in the Jordan Reimer case. Why will he not seek a second opinion? Does he not like being second guessed, just like his toxic boss?
Here, here.
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Speaker, our government stands with the Reimer family. We have multiple ministers and members of our team who have met with the family as recent as yesterday, and will continue to sit down and meet with them and make sure their voices are heard as we move forward. Our Justice Minister has taken many steps to strengthen laws here in Manitoba with the full support of MAD Canada and other organizations that our government is working directly with to move laws in the right direction to make sure that we're mitigating tragic outcomes from happening again. I encourage members opposite to take a different approach that really focuses on unifying around improving this area of our justice system instead of focusing on division.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary question.
Manitobans, you heard it right there. More misleading facts by this NDP government. They say they stand with the Reimer family, but they vote against the very resolution the family is calling for. If that isn't stabbing the family in the back, I don't know what is. No ideas, only games by this NDP government. They talk about free trade, they vote against it. They talk about justice, they deny it for the Reimer family. They see a good idea, they steal it. It's shameful, it's disgusting, and it's today's NDP. Will the Premier turn the page, stop playing games with Manitobans by supporting good policy regardless of who proposed it?
Here, here, here.
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Speaker, I think Manitobans, when they look around this chamber, would probably argue that disgusting behavior really lives on that side of the House. You can see it in the Leader of the Opposition's approach. This is the same person who has collected a tax rebate of $160,000 for an ad that he ran under targeting murder victims of a serial killer. Honourable Speaker, if you want to talk about disgusting, callous, despicable, shameful, unbecoming of an elected official in this chamber, take a look over at the member for Fort White and the campaign he ran under, where he's collecting a rebate based on targeting the families of murder victims. Shameful. Honourable Speaker, there is not a single Manitoban who can learn a lesson from him.
Time has expired. The Honourable Member for Midland.
This NDP government is playing games with Manitobans and Manitoba businesses. They voted against the Free Trade and Labour Mobility Within Canada Act today for political purposes. Legislation that is actively before the House to remove interprovincial trade barriers was voted down by this NDP government. When will this Premier quit playing games with Manitoba and Manitoba businesses for political purposes?
Here, here.
Order, please. Once again, I would call the government bench to order. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, I don't know if the member missed the memo, but yesterday our Premier announced alongside the Premier of Ontario that we signed a new MOU to reduce interprovincial trade barriers between Manitoba and Ontario. We're getting the job done, and we're doing the work to build a stronger economy, starting with our $3.7 billion capital plan, where we're getting the job done that the members opposite never did when it comes to building schools, building PCHs, building NUPIC. We're also, of course, investing in Buy Canadian. We're bringing back dollars to Canada through changes to procurement. We're investing in trade-supporting infrastructure, like the Port of Churchill, the rail line that goes there, Centerport. We are creating more opportunities for Manitoba businesses to get their goods to market, because we are going to continue focus on building the strongest economy in Canada.
Time has expired. The honourable member for Midland on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, that Premier also said that legislation was coming. They clearly want all the glory without doing any of the work, because legislation was before the House today to recognize reciprocal provinces, and this NDP government voted it down. Powerful, good legislation that would be consistent with what other provinces in the country are doing, and they voted it down. For what reason did this NDP vote down reciprocal legislation to remove interprovincial trade barriers?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, we're getting the job done. We're moving forward, reducing interprovincial trade barriers while we continue to take action to move our economy forward. You know what's also important to move an economy forward? Energy. You know what they did for 7.5 years when it comes to creating new energy? Nothing, Honourable Speaker. They didn't build one single megawatt in 7.5 years. And you know, to move our economy forward, we need to have energy to support more investment in Manitoba. We were proud to bring in an announcement, 600 megawatts. Wow. We're going to develop a wind in partnership with First Nations. We're moving our economy forward, and we're going to continue doing that every single day. Great job.
The honourable member for Midland on a final supplementary question.
The free trade bill was introduced on April 15th, which was 31 days ago. This NDP government has had ample time to bring forward its own legislation, but they stalled for months. They want all the glory without having to do any of the work. Instead, they are waiting until the final days of session to bring forward legislation as a result of mounting pressure from Premier Doug Ford. When will this failed minister quit playing games with Manitobans and Manitoba businesses?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I invite the members opposite to get on Team Manitoba, get on Team Canada. We're doing the work with the biggest economy in Canada, and we're moving things forward. That's right. Right. Not only are we bringing down those trade barriers, again, we're making incredibly important investments in trade-supporting infrastructure to help businesses get their goods to market. We've invested in energy infrastructure. We're moving forward with critical minerals, thanks to the good work being done by the Minister for Jobs. And of course, we brought in a payroll tax cut to make it easier for our small and medium-sized businesses to succeed. As you can see, Honourable Speaker, this team on this side of the House, we are building a stronger economy for tomorrow.
Wow.
The honourable member for Brandon West.
As we've seen, the NDP loves playing political games with Manitobans. Shamefully, playing games with the death of a young, vibrant lady with her family up in the gallery has to be addressed. I asked the Premier, why did he instruct his caucus to delay justice for Jordan yet again today?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Honourable Speaker, once again, I had an opportunity to speak with Karen today. Jordan's death is still so raw, and it's still so raw for so many, not just the family, but so many in the community, so many in this House and in this chamber. That's why we're doing absolutely everything we can to make every step that we can take when it comes to strengthening our impaired driving legislation here in this province. Now, we've shown we're ready to do this in a nonpartisan way. Once again, I implore the members opposite to put the partisan swords down. Let's get to work, and let's make our roads safer.
The honourable member for Brandon West on a supplementary question.
One signature is all it would take. The Premier didn't have the courage to answer my question of why the NDP denied justice for Jordan. Second opinions are not new to Attorney Generals. Peter Nygaard was charged because of a second opinion by a real Attorney General. Gord McIntosh did it. Dave Chomniak did it. Why does our current Attorney General not have the courage to do the right thing for the Reimer family?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
The member for Steinbach was the former Attorney General.
That's right.
Order.
He had the opportunity to ask for a review within his department of this case. He refused the family. He said no. I said yes. I said that we would look at this case and we would bring every resource to ensure that everything was done to support this family when it comes to the prosecution of this case. Now, the member opposite knows that we are taking steps when it comes to impaired driving, and all it takes is for that party to put down their partisan swords and come to the table, work with us, and let's make our roads safer. They continue to refuse to do that, and
First time has expired. The Honourable Member for Brandon West on a final supplementary question.
Drop the partisanship. One signature is all it takes. The Premier refuses to answer. The Attorney General refuses to answer as well. The members of the NDP government who have children, such as the member for Riel, Rosmere, Kildonan River East, St. James, and Concordia, will one of them stand up and answer why their entire NDP government denied justice for Jordan today?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
every member in this chamber cares about the victims of impaired driving. And every member of this government caucus is going to fight tooth and nail every single day to ensure there are no more deaths on our highways when it comes to impaired driving. That's why we're stepping up. We're giving the RCMP more tools. We're building on our community programs and our education programs asked for by the Reimer family. We're supporting Mad Canada. We're supporting victims of impaired driving. And we brought legislation every single session in this House, including Bill 5. The members opposite need to get on board, support that legislation, and stop with the partisan games.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
The NDP are quick to wrap themselves in the flag, but they refuse to actually get off the sidelines and join Team Canada. The hypocrisy of this NDP government to talk about Buy Canada and then vote against free trade within Canada. Why did the minister responsible for government purchasing vote against the Free Trade and Mobility Within Canada Act?
The Honourable Minister of Government Services.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I want to thank the member for that question. The member wants to be the 51st state of the state. It is not going to happen. Member from Maryland, she liked our budget so much. She had no complaints about the budget. Only complaint was why Elon Musk wasn't getting the discount. And member from Fort White, thank the Trump. So on that side of the House, we will take no lessons from them.
The Honourable Member for Borderland on a supplementary question.
Once again, Speaker, that minister is a stranger to the truth. The Premier expenses a flight to Toronto to ride Doug Ford's coattails, and the very next day, his entire caucus voted against interprovincial trade. They voted against ripping down bureaucratic barriers. They voted against opportunities for Manitobans, and they voted against Canada in a trade war. We stand with Manitobans. We stand for national unity. Why did this minister vote against Canada?
Order, please. Order, please. The comments that the honourable member for Borderland made in his question about stranger to the truth have previously been ruled as being out of order. So I would ask the member to kindly withdraw those comments and apologize. The honourable member for Borderland.
Speaker, I'm asking for clarification. I did not use that phrase previously.
For the honourable member for Borderland's clarification, he just used it in his response or in his question. Previous times that particular phrase has been ruled as being out of order, unparliamentary. So rather than argue with the Speaker, I would ask him to apologize and withdraw. The honourable member for Borderland.
Thank you, Speaker. I apologize and withdraw.
The Honourable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation.
Honourable Speaker, let me be clear for you and for all Manitobans that we're a leader on internal trade and will continue to be a leader on internal trade. Yep. We are working with provinces and territories right across the country to break down barriers to internal trade and make sure our economy moves forward. And that's why we are out in Ontario signing a new MOU to break down internal barriers with the Ontario government. That's real leadership, real action. We're getting it done while members opposite talk about thanking Trump for the tariffs. That's the last thing our economy needs. On this side, we'll get the job done for all Manitobans.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Agassiz.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Yesterday, Global News revealed a shocking and disturbing truth that the Minister of Families would rather keep hidden. To the Minister, how many Manitoba children have been housed in hotels over the last 18 months?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
The member knows that I can't share details on specific CFS files. I've told her that repeatedly, and she keeps getting up in the House and wants me to break the law. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do that. What I can say to the member and to the chamber is that the CFS standards are clear. Hotels are not to be used as placements. There are, in some circumstances, hotel stays for medical appointments, family visits, or in the planning of family reunification. I am in constant direct contact with authorities and agencies, and it is clear that the CFS standards are in compliance with agencies and authorities.
The honourable member for Agassiz on a supplementary question.
Just to be clear, I wasn't asking for specifics, I was asking for numbers. That should be a simple question, but yet the minister failed to say the number should be 0, actually. She is once again housing vulnerable children in hotels. When in this minister's mandate was the first child housed in a hotel?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Again, the CFS standards are clear. Hotels are not to be used as placements. They are sometimes used as hotel stays for family visits, medical appointments, and planning in family reunification. And the member knows that under my administration, we have proclaimed kinship and customary care agreements. We raised the basic maintenance rates by 10%, something that wasn't done in 13 years, and that we are actively moving towards jurisdiction here in Manitoba. And she knows, because I've said it many, many times, child welfare is going to look incredibly different in 5 to 10 years with more children with their families, in their communities, and in their nations.
The honourable member for Agassiz on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, a 15-year-old was left in charge of multiple siblings under the age of 10 for 2 weeks. A 13-year-old ran away from the hotel. Family members have asked the minister, and I quote, Honourable Speaker, what is she doing to protect our children? What is she doing for the safety of our children? So I ask, will the minister answer those families here today?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
What I will say again is that the standards are clear. Hotels are not to be used as placements. They are sometimes used as stays for medical appointments, family visits, or family reunification. What I will say is that it is incredibly irresponsible for any journalist to include pictures of children that are in care without their consent, and that can be easily identified and traced. I take great exception as the Minister of Families for anybody that would put in harm's way children that are in child welfare. It's incredibly irresponsible, and that's what the member should be getting up on today.
First time has expired. The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Manitoba has incredible potential in mining and critical minerals, yet we've fallen to 12th out of 13 provinces and territories for exploration spending. Investors are choosing other jurisdictions because our system is outdated and uncompetitive. While other provinces have moved to a digital claim system, Manitoba still requires ground staking that is costly, slow, and intrusive. What is the plan to modernize our mining laws to make Manitoba a competitive market again?
The Honourable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation.
Honourable Speaker, I'm so glad to get a chance to talk about the critical mineral sector, mining. We just had prospectors, developers here this week, and it's a great time for me to talk about the brand new gold mine we opened in Lynn Lake, Manitoba. This is a $1 billion investment right here in Manitoba that's going to put over 600 Manitobans to work during the construction phase, 450 to work during operations. This is a great opportunity economically. And you know what's the best part? We did it in collaboration with First Nations in the community so that all Manitobans can benefit from our critical mineral industry here in Manitoba.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, provinces including Ontario and British Columbia are showing real leadership by partnering with Indigenous communities and sharing mineral revenues. These partnerships are unlocking economic growth and building trust. How exactly is Manitoba pursuing Indigenous revenue sharing to strengthen relationships, attract investment, and create opportunities across the province?
The Honourable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation.
Honourable Speaker, it is very important to point out the work that needs to be done to make sure that we have First Nations and Métis communities engaged in the critical mineral sector, something that was ignored and failed by the former government. On this side of the House, we've already started to correct that work by working in collaboration with First Nations and Métis. And we've actually struck a Manitoba Mining Advisory Council where First Nations and Métis have a place at the table to advise us on how we go forward. And that work works in collaboration with industry and with academia. Honourable Speaker, that's how we move this industry forward, by doing so together, so that all Manitobans reap the benefits from our critical mineral sector. And I think that's something members opposite fail to understand, but Manitobans can rest assured that we will get it right.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park on a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Critical minerals are essential for the global transition to clean technology. Our province has really fallen behind compared to other provinces, and this delay is costing jobs, pushing businesses away, and causing us to miss out on opportunities that could benefit both northern and southern communities. This inaction is hurting workers, entrepreneurs, and especially Indigenous communities. What steps is this government taking to compete in the critical minerals economy?
The Honourable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation.
Honourable Speaker, members opposite are, from Tyndall Park is right that critical minerals are essential to moving our clean economy forward, and that's why we take it seriously. That's why we launched our strategy last year, and that is why we are continuing to advance critical mineral projects in the right way. Something the members opposites failed to do, failed to get done, and failed to deliver on. We're correcting that, and we're getting it done. We're getting it right. Let me tell you, Honourable Speaker, that we invested $1.5 million with the Mining Association of Manitoba to make sure that we can actually achieve and capitalize on the next investments, the next mine, the next opportunity for us to succeed in the critical mineral space. Not only do we have a new gold mine in Lynn Lake, we also have a potash mine here in Manitoba.
Member's time has expired. The honourable member for Waverley.
Honourable Speaker, Manitobans and Canadians alike are watching anxiously as the emergency wildfire situation in Whiteshell develops. We were devastated to learn that 2 Manitobans tragically lost their lives. Our hearts go out to their families, their community, first responders involved during this incredibly difficult time. We also extend our support to the evacuees who are anxious and facing challenges as they leave their homes, sometimes on very sudden and short notice. And this is an emergency that our government is working with emergency measures offices and experts on managing. Can the minister please update the House on any further developments on the wildfire situations across the province?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with the family and the loved ones of the families of the 2 Manitobans that we lost in this terrible tragedy. I'd like to thank the member for the question. I'd also like to wish everybody a safe and happy May-long weekend, but at the same time, we need to be vigilant. We need to be vigilant as this emergent situation and this developing situation that changes not only on a daily basis, but even on an hourly basis. We want to be able to ensure that people have the opportunity to listen to evacuation orders, and please, please, please be vigilant when it comes time to being able to allow emergency personnel to do their duties and do their responsibilities. So we've also had, of course, the Whiteshell area is now in a state of emergency as well too. So we want to be able to have that opportunity to tell Manitobans to let our first responders, let our emergency personnel, let our wildfire service do their due diligence.
First time has expired. The honourable member for Interlake Gimli.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. When Manitobans call 911, they expect someone to answer. But we're hearing alarming reports of how many of these calls are not getting through. This is a critical failure in our emergency response system. Can the Premier tell this House how many 911 calls are not getting through?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I want to thank the member again for raising this important question. When someone calls for help, they should get it. That's why when we learned of the failures with private telecommunications companies, that they had prevented a Manitoban from getting life-saving care, we took action. We spoke to the family to share our condolences and vowed to hold TELUS to account. We demanded TELUS investigate the incident and work with its partners to understand what went wrong. We've reviewed the interim report from TELUS and the CRTC, which confirms it was a TELUS outage that impacted 911 calls. We're meeting with TELUS later today to discuss both what went wrong and what steps are being taken to ensure it never happens again. We've committed to working with the family.
Member's time has expired. The honourable member for Interlake Gimli on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, other calls went through. It was only the calls to the 911. Every second counts in an emergency, but in rural Manitoba, people are reporting that 911 calls are not connecting. This raises serious concerns about the reliability of our emergency infrastructure. Can the minister tell how many 911 calls are not getting through?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Honourable Speaker, I have to confess I'm a little disappointed that the member opposite continues to make this a political issue when it needn't be. But if you're going to, then I feel justified in raising your record on this. I want to quote from the Lac du Bonnie Clipper, September 7th, 2023. Councillor Kurt Bewley of RM of Reynolds, we're only 45 miles from Winnipeg. This is crazy. I've been working on this issue since 2017 as it's major for us. Your inaction on this issue, opposition, could have prevented some of the problems we're seeing now. I want to table that article for for the House so members can refresh their memory on the record.
The honourable member for Interlake Gimli on a final supplementary question.
If this failing NDP government doesn't know how many rural 911 calls are not connecting, that in itself is a serious concern. Honourable Speaker, shouldn't the minister know how the current state of the Manitoba 911 system is? Will the minister call a public inquiry into their 911 disaster?
Just before the minister answers, I would remind him to make sure his response goes through the chair. The Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Of course, apologies, Honourable Speaker. I want to remind the opposition again that your record on rural cell phone coverage is appalling. You did nothing when a man in Alonza died because he didn't have cell service to hear a tornado warning. We're taking action. We're talking to the family. That's taking action. We're working with the telecom companies, with the federal government, and the CRTC to make improvements. We're meeting with TELUS later today. If the member has anything of actual value to add, he should do so now.
Just before the next question, I would once again warn the minister that he needs to think while he's speaking, because he did directly address members opposite by saying you again instead of through the chair. The honourable member for La-Vérendrye.
Honourable Speaker, a constituent of mine had a building on his yard burned down while a concerned neighbour was unable to access 911 services. The neighbour was eventually able to get a hold of the local fire chief on his personal line, and the fire was stopped before it spread to their home. Has the minister expanded staffing at the dispatch centre to address the call volumes during this emergency situation?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, when someone calls for help, when someone calls emergency 911 services for help, they should be able to count on receiving that help. That's right. Which is why our government was so concerned to hear not only of this tragedy, but there have been other concerns raised under the previous government that went unaddressed for years. Yep. That's why our government has demanded that TELUS Mobility and providers bring forward a report that outlines for our government what steps they are taking to ensure that this does not happen to Manitobans moving forward. We are demanding they provide us all of the information necessary so that as a government we can make informed decisions and ensure that we have the support in the right places. We expect our providers to deliver services to Manitobans that keep them safe.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for La-Vérendrye on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, my situation is completely new. The minister is responsible for emergency management organization. EMO is responsible for the centre. If Manitobans are unable to access 911 in an emergency, it is her responsibility to address it. I have spoken with many Manitobans who have gotten left on hold when they called 911 recently. What has she done to ensure Manitobans are heard during this emergency situation?
Hear, hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, I'm concerned that the member opposite is really misinformed, really doesn't understand the process or the structure in terms of how emergency response services are actually organized and who is responsible for what. I know that the minister would be more than willing to sit down with that member and walk him through it step by step so that when he stands in the House, he understands what he's bringing forward. But I also want to highlight, we're going into a long weekend. We really want for Manitobans to have all information. Check out the websites, stay informed, keep yourself safe. I also want to say, Honourable Speaker, it's been really difficult being in this House, hearing members opposite share personal information of others in this House, invoke their children. It is disgusting what we're seeing on that side of the House. It's a reflection of the failed leadership already of the leader opposite. Do better.
Your time has expired. The honourable member for the time for question period has expired. The honourable Minister of Families.
On a point of order, Honourable Speaker, I do just want to raise the issue in this chamber of some of the things that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And again, I'll remind the House that it started with the member, the member for Riding Mountain, when he asked really despicable questions of the Minister of Finance and tried to infer that the Minister of Finance was doing something he shouldn't have been doing, and really questioning the Minister of Finance in respect of like mental health supports. And what we saw after that was that there was, a statement in the House that ensured that members of the House know that we have privilege in this House to say pretty much everything, but without clarification or qualification. And what that ended up doing is that it ensured that anything that folks say opposite is allowed in this House. But there are lines that aren't crossed. There were lines that were crossed that shouldn't have been crossed a couple of weeks ago with the member for Riding Mountain. And we saw it again today, just mere minutes ago, with the member for Brandon West. You don't invoke members' children in this chamber or outside this chamber. You don't invoke members' families. There is just lines or a principle that we should have in this chamber, that our families, our children, our loved ones are not brought into this chamber and into the toxicity of this space that they never asked for. They didn't sign up for it. All of us in this chamber signed up for, in some respects, some of that. But if the members opposite want to, continue to disrespect the women and gender diverse folks on this side of the House, unfortunately, that is their right in this chamber. But there is lines that should not and must not be crossed. And the member for Brandon West, alongside his buddy, the member for Riding Mountain, crossed lines. It's unacceptable.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Obviously, the content of the questions and sadly, the content of the answers are just a mere dispute of the facts, and they don't fall under your purview, Honourable Speaker, of what the actual content contains. And I just find it amusing that this point of order is coming from somebody who's been called out 13 times in this House in the last couple of weeks. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Order, please. Order, please. The points that have been raised are very important points, which is why I'm going to take it under advisement to make sure that I come back with a well thought out, well researched and thorough response. Multiple times I've asked us all to be more respectful of each other, and I will continue to ask that of all of us. Petitions. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. Number one, Kelly Verwey, a beloved young woman from Portage La Prairie, Manitoba, was tragically killed in a car crash caused by a repeat violent offender with a long criminal history. Number two, despite repeated violations of his bail conditions, the offender was free to roam the streets and to ultimately claim Kelly's life. This tragedy was entirely preventable. Number three, while the criminal code falls under federal jurisdiction, provinces have been given the responsibility for the administration of justice, allowing for meaningful provincial action on bail reform to ensure public safety. Number 4, other provinces have taken proactive steps to strengthen bail.
Order, please. If I could just interrupt the member for a couple of minutes. If I could ask members to please stay for a minute. I've got an announcement to make as soon as this member is done with his petition. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I forgot if I was on 3 or 4, so sorry, 3. While the criminal code falls under federal jurisdiction, provinces have been given the responsibility for the administration of justice, allowing for meaningful provincial action on bail reform to ensure public safety. Number 4, other provinces have taken proactive steps to strengthen bail enforcement, but Manitoba has not used all of the available tools to address this issue effectively. Number 5, the provincial government has the ability and the responsibility to advocate for and implement measures that protect its citizens by ensuring that repeat violent offenders are not released into our communities without proper safeguards. Number 6, immediate action is required to close gaps in the justice system that allow dangerous criminals to remain free, which puts innocent Manitobans at risk. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. Number 1, to urge the provincial government to take immediate and decisive action on bail reform to address serious deficits in enforcement by utilizing all available provincial mechanisms to strengthen warrant enforcement, increasing bail supervision, and opposing release of offenders, thus ensuring the repeat violent offenders are held accountable and that public safety is prioritized over leniency. And number 2, to urge the provincial government to lobby the federal government to immediately repeal provisions of the criminal code that allow for the continued victimization of law-abiding Manitobans while granting repeat offenders additional rights. Honourable Speaker, this petition has been signed by Riley Ann Steeden, Rachel Rochelle Rands, and Ruth Aucoin, and many other Manitobans.
At this point in time, I wanted as many members here as possible because after 2 years of serving as a page here in the Legislature building, Mayanne Huin is sad to say goodbye. Having the opportunity to work as a page was initially daunting, even a bit intimidating, but she grew to immensely enjoy the work, whether it was the liveliness of question period or the calm committees late in the evening. This June, Mayanne is graduating from College Churchill High School. She's planning on taking some personal time for growth and development by going to a school abroad for a year before deciding her time to her future, before dedicating her time to her future academic studies. With a growing interest in public policy and governance, in parts thanks to paging, she is to pursue them in the future in the hopes of perhaps ending up back here. Mayanne is incredibly grateful for the experience she has gained as a page here at the Legislative Building and for everyone who made it an educational and supportive environment. She would like to thank all the wonderful pages she's been able to work alongside with for the past 2 years, as well as the rest of the chamber branch and anyone else who works in the building. It's only because of them that she has had such a great experience, and she appreciates every single person and what they do to keep the proceedings of this building going. The lasting impact of this experience has had on Mayanne will no doubt stay with her forever, and she will always look back on it with appreciation and gratitude. And we all thank you. Thank you. We can now return to petitions. The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. On May 1st, 2022, Jordan Reimer, 24 years of age, was killed by an impaired driver while she was acting as a designated driver. Number two, there are two people legally culpable for her death: the impaired driver and the accomplice. The driver was charged, but the second criminal, the accomplice, has not been held accountable. Number three, a concerned citizen took the keys from the impaired driver earlier in the evening to ensure he could not drive impaired. The accomplice retrieved the keys from this citizen under false pretenses and knowingly provided the impaired driver with access to the vehicle. Number four, the Winnipeg Police Services, WPS, investigation provided adequate evidence to meet the charging standards and recommended charges be laid against the accomplice. The Crown prosecutors declined to prosecute the accomplice. Number five, the family of Jordan Reimer has called for the prosecution of the accomplice and that the decision to not prosecute be reviewed independently. Number six, as recently as 2022, there is precedent to refer criminal files of decisions to not proceed with prosecutions to extra provincial departments of justice for review. This was done with the Peter Nygaard file, which ultimately led to a reversal in the decision to not prosecute, and charges were laid. Number seven, an out-of-province review is supported by MAD Canada, MAD Manitoba, and by Manitobans. Number eight, the family has exhausted every avenue within the existing system, and in the absence of a prescribed process, when a disagreement exists on charging standards, the only option is to request an independent out-of-province review. Number nine, in December 2024, the WPS reported an alarming number of impaired drivers in the holiday check stop program, extending criminal culpability beyond the driver to those who engage in overt actions to facilitate impaired driving will save lives. Number 10, Manitobans deserve to have confidence in the provincial government and justice systems to make decisions that achieve true justice for victims and their families. We petition the Legislative Assembly as follows: to urge the provincial government to order an out-of-province review of the prosecutor's decision to not prosecute the accomplice in the death of Jordan Reimer. And Honourable Speaker, this petition has been signed by Kim Skoke, Kevin Nelson, Linda McDonald, and many, many other fine Manitobans.
Seeing no other petitions, grievances, orders of the day, the Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I wish to table response to written questions 7 through 11 from the member for Selkirk.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
I would like to announce that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts will meet on Monday, May 26, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. to consider the following: the Auditor General's Report, Addictions Treatment Services in Manitoba, dated July 2023.
It's been announced that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts will meet on Monday, May 26, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. to consider the following: the Auditor General's Report, Addictions Treatment Services in Manitoba, dated July 2023. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Can you please resolve the House into Committee of Supply for the consideration of departmental estimates?
The House will now resolve into Committee of Supply. Will the Deputy Speaker please take the chair?
Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now resume consideration of the estimates for the Department of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness. At this time, we invite ministerial and opposition staff to enter the chamber. Could the Minister please introduce her staff in attendance? The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Yes, so we have, pardon me, Vicky Taves, who's joining us here on my left. Vicky is the Executive Director of the Mental Health Promotion and Harm Reduction Branch. And Vicky has over 25 years experience in the civil service, working in a variety of roles in the department, and throughout her career she's worked closely with many community organizations and across departments. She oversees the branch that provides leadership and oversight to the mental health promotion and harm reduction work of the department, and I am so very privileged and honored that she is a part of our team, and she does amazing work, and I just love Vicky, and I love all of our team. And then we have Carolina, who I love all of our staff and our members of our team. Carolina is my Director of Ministerial Affairs, keeps me on my toes and takes care of me, and I'm so thankful to have her as a part of our staff. And then Carolyn Ryan, who has been with the department for over 20 years, has extensive experience and is so respected in the housing field. We were just at Manitoba Housing Day yesterday, and everyone just speaks highly of the work that she's done in this sector for many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Would the critic like to introduce the staff in attendance? The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I would like to introduce Mark Stewart. He is my assistant here today to help me out with any questions or any help that I need. So thank you. He's Issues Management.
As per Sub-Rule 77, Bracket 15, questioning for this department will proceed in a global manner. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I appreciate the time today to ask questions on behalf of my opposition critic role of housing, addictions, and homelessness and mental health. And I look forward to working together with the Minister to find out how things are going in the province and any information that maybe would be helpful for me as well to assist in any way in my critic role to help the Minister as well. I just want to start off with questions about, we talked about addictions already, and in that portfolio side, I'd like to move over to the housing question, some housing questions. If we truly want to end homelessness, we must invest in housing first strategies. We must prioritize wraparound supports, mental health services, addiction treatment, and employment programs to ensure people can not only find shelter, but remain housed. So that's always a priority, I think, for everybody here in the room, or in the chamber. And I think it's very important for all of us that we must listen to the Indigenous communities, to other communities, people whose members are affected by homelessness, and implement many different wraparound services depending on what they need specifically, whether it's cultural or it's location or whatever it is that we need to do to help to end the homelessness situation that we have in our province, because I believe everybody deserves a place to live and a home, a roof over their head. So I'm honored to be here to speak about that and to just to find out more information in regards to that. My question would be, how many currently people are experiencing homelessness in our province of Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Miigwech, Honourable Chairperson. So I want to thank the member for that question, and I know the member knows that it's super important that we take a balanced approach and not just housing folks, but making sure that they get the supports that they need, and that housing is a key component of that. And we're coming from, you know, a previous government that for 7.5 years sold off housing and allowed people to set up tents and live in bus shelters, and allowed, you know, the government's crown jewel, which is Manitoba Housing, to go unmaintained, to be boarded up, and Manitobans left paying market rents, which were unaffordable. Manitobans had to take funds from a budget that they didn't think they'd have to budget for, because of the decisions of the previous government to not invest in maintaining Manitoba Housing. Our government's taken a different approach. We're investing more funds to fix up Manitoba Housing, to ensure that we are taking the boards off of Manitoba Housing units. But not only that, but making sure and ensuring that folks get the supports that they need, whether that's mental health and addictions, or access to, as the members opposite spoke about, access to EIA or some training programs. That is a part of Your Way Home strategy. So I don't know if the members opposite has had a chance to read our Your Way Home strategy, but it's a pretty comprehensive strategy that I'm pretty, you know, proud of, that our department and our civil servants have worked really hard on. And I can't say enough about our civil servants and the amount of work that they do and the heart that they put into the work that they do. They have been doing some tremendous amount of heavy lifting because we are coming from a deficit because of the previous government's decisions and the choices that they made in terms of divesting in housing and selling off and choosing not to build any housing. They sold off more, the previous government sold off more housing than they built in the time that they were in government. And that's shameful, because it is a responsibility of the government to provide social and affordable housing and supports to Manitobans. We see the consequences of that. We see people living in encampments. We see people unsupported. And our government is taking a different approach. I'm not sure if members opposite heard our announcement last week, but 33 people have been housed thus far from encampments, and that number's higher today on account of the 67 units that went online or are going online. And we're going to continue to invest in housing because we're investing in Manitobans. We're investing in our safety and security of our community. We've seen a reduction in the crime rate in our province, and we know that what we're doing is working because we're taking a cross-departmental approach. We're working with justice, we're working with health, we're working with families, we're working with education, and we're getting people connected with the service and resources that they so desperately deserved and needed for so long. The service delivery organizations like Main Street Project, North End Women's Center, West Central Women's Center, Siloam Mission, Equay. There's so many organizations that were banging on the previous government's door asking for supports because there were so many folks that were falling through the cracks. And the members opposite in their opening remarks talked about people falling through the cracks. Well, these are the very people that we are now lifting up and helping because of the previous government's callous, cold, decisions that they made in not helping these organizations to support these very folks. So we're we're going to continue supporting these folks. We're going to continue investing in our homeless strategy, and we're going to continue to invest in nonprofit housing in our province and our own housing.
The honourable member for Morton Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I was just wondering if the minister knows how many or what the number of total homeless would be in our province of Manitoba. I'm not sure, she didn't answer my question, so I'm not sure if she knows that answer. I hope she does, because this is obviously something that we're trying to provide homes for people who are in desperate need of homes. So the question would be, if the goal, what is the goal, I guess, to end, like, how long will it take to house the 700 people that they identified that are living in camps at the last known announcement that they made? And at the rate of 33 people, and it's been 4 months, that would put us at 7 years to house the 700 people. So I'm just wondering if the minister could just explain to me how they're planning to use the new strategy, Your Way Home, just to how that's going to work, and what is the end goal for it to house the 700 people. And then also beyond that, the people that are not counted in that 700, like what's the goal for housing that many people, time-wise? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker. And I thought it was really important to really outline and put it on the record why we are where we're at in terms of the numbers. And the members opposite, knew the number was 700, approximately 700. So the member, put that on the record. It is around 700. And that number does, fluctuate with changes in weather, people's circumstances, and we would be a lot further ahead had the previous government not sold off housing, had they not supported the purchase of Lyons Manor, had they not invested in our crown jewel, Manitoba Housing. We are playing catch up. We have been investing since we took government. This is a priority for us. We've created a whole department because we believe investing in Manitobans is, if we're doing better, if they're doing better, we're all doing better. Knocking on doors, listening to Manitobans were tired of seeing people unhoused, unsupported. They were tired of the previous government not paying attention and supporting folks, whether it was through their addictions, whether it was through crime and safety in their community, whether it was stabilized housing. And we know housing is a social determinant of how well people do. And yet, experts were telling members opposite that housing needs to be invested in. Wraparound supports also need to be invested in. But members opposite chose for 7.5 years to ignore the experts who were knocking on their very door telling them that. So we're continuing to support those folks. Last count End Homelessness Winnipeg did for their street census was in 2022. That number was around 1,200. They just did a street census a few months ago, and their numbers are supposed to be out around the end of the month, so we're going to be watching for that. We also work closely with End Homelessness Winnipeg. They're one of our partners in the strategy, along with so many other amazing service providers. And we can't do this work alone. We know that. We're collaborating, whether it's with municipalities, with Reeves, with cities, with the federal government, and with different organizations. Our door is open. We're listening, we're learning, we're supporting where we can, and of course, we're going to continue that. We've housed 1,935 people since we formed government. That is a huge number, and that's something to be celebrated. And over 700 of those folks are in our own Manitoba housing. And that's, because of the work of our department. That's because of the work of social enterprises that we're working with, whether that's Build or Purpose. And these are programs that work with folks that are on EIA or that are coming out of incarceration. They're giving them skills so that they can go out into the workforce. They're also helping them get reunified with their children. These are folks that are transforming lives. And I want to, uplift and honor the work that they're doing, because they're doing amazing work with our community. But they're also helping to support these folks that are coming out of encampments into homes, but also families that need housing, that have needed housing for a very long time. And we're talking about units that have been, boarded up for a very long time, that the previous failed, cold, callous PC government failed to invest in. And right now we have, an opposition leader who's holding up Bill 12. Bill 12 would protect our social and affordable housing. We just met with the Nonprofit Housing Association, who supports Bill 12, who wants this bill to pass because they want to protect the crown jewel. They also want to protect all of the social and affordable housing so that we're not in a situation where people can't afford rents and there's not affordable rents. These are taxpayers' dollars. These are funds that taxpayers put in. So I would ask the member through the chair, whose home do they want to sell next?
The Honourable Member for Morton Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. My next question is in regards to the Manitoba housing units that there are. I agree that they are very important to many people, including single moms or people who are coming from dangerous situations, or wherever they're coming from and they need a place to live. I think that's such an important thing. And I can speak personally that I was in a time when I was a young mom with 2 babies and I needed a place to stay for 6 months, and I found a beautiful house to stay in, and it was Manitoba Housing Unit, and it was exactly what I needed for that time in my life, and it was wonderful. So I want to just ask the minister, how many units currently do we have in Manitoba that are functioning fully to house people in our province?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
So while these folks are looking for that answer, I'm just going to just speak a little bit about chronic homelessness and what we define as chronic homelessness, and a bit about the strategy. So chronic homelessness in Manitoba is defined as when a person has been without stable housing for 6 months or more in the past year, or over 545 nights in the past 3 years. Chronic homelessness often affects individuals who face complex challenges, including mental health issues, addictions, or other systemic barriers that often make it difficult to maintain long-term stability. We're committed, our government is committed to ending chronic homelessness in 8 years, and our goal is to ensure that anyone who becomes homelessness is rehoused within 6 weeks. What progress has been made since the launch of Your Way Home in January of 2025? Like I said, we've housed over 1,900 individuals, and nearly 7,000 more have been prevented from falling into homelessness. And immediate actions, including the winter response, which was something we immediately brought together a table of service providers that were on the front lines to really speak to why people were becoming homeless, what we can do to prevent homelessness and what were some of the barriers that they were facing to getting housed, or how can we prevent and stop, whether it was evictions or helping them to get home or helping to support them in the current housing that they were in. And what we learned is that there needed to be some flex funding for some folks, because we were hearing that folks were coming from their communities, often got stuck here because medical reasons and didn't have a way back to their community. So we listened, so we created a flex fund for those folks to be able to have access to funds to get back to their communities so they could have a place to live there. We also heard that folks were maybe on a relative's couch or staying with a relative, and because they couldn't contribute, maybe they didn't have access to EIA because they didn't have IDs, or whatever the reason, we were able to connect them to those services, get them connected into the system. And, you know, the previous government wasn't supporting folks, and they were leaving a lot of folks behind without the services, whether it was the mental health or addiction services. We were able to provide flex funding to keep them housed on a couch with their sister. We heard a lot of stories, so whether it was helping them with food in order for them to stay housed there. There were just so many stories that we heard from folks that needed just a little bit of funds to be able to help them, whether it was with a damage deposit because they didn't have the funds to get their first place. So we were able to do that. And we were able to assist more than 300 people, including 129 who secured permanent housing. And budget 2024 invested $116 million to build at least 350 units of social and affordable housing. And I'm really pleased to say that we exceeded that. We're in the process of building even more than that. There's going to be more units coming online, thanks to so many partners. And we're repairing over 3,000 more, and we've also invested $5 million towards new incentives to end chronic homelessness. And in January 2025, our Manitoba government, again, we announced Your Way Home, and it builds on 6 main components. So the first one is increasing the supply of social housing with wraparound supports. The second is creating a Housing First program in Manitoba Housing. So taking 20% of our housing and making that with wraparound supports. Aligning coordination between organizations and governments. Recruiting, training, and retaining frontline staff. Addressing gaps and lead youth and vulnerable people into, addressing the gaps that lead youth and vulnerable people into homelessness. And then, of course, inspiring hope and developing pathways to success. And I'll answer your question in the next.
The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I did ask a question. I was hoping to get the answer, just a number, but I do appreciate information, and that's what we're doing here today. So, but if the Minister could answer my question specifically, how many units there are and how many units are in total are vacant also. Now I'm at that next question. I know of one Inglewood Manor in the arm of Armstrong specifically had 9 units that were vacant out of 22 units. And these were not vacant because of any maintenance or repairs. And so my question would just be, what would be the reason for the vacancy? Once I get the answer for how many there are in total in the province, I'd love to know the reason for vacancies in that area specifically.
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
All right, thank you, Miigwech, Honourable Chairperson. So I did say that I would answer the question in this follow-up, but I do want to continue with the rest of what chronic homelessness and our Your Way Home plan includes, and then at the end I will give the answer. So our government's using a multi-year implementation plan with annual targets and regular progress reports. So we're making sure that by the halfway mark of our mandate, so 2025, we will have 50% decrease in chronic homelessness in our province. So we're on track and even above track. Folks are, want to take housing. They're open to taking housing. They've been waiting for housing for a very long time. And like I said, they're happy that they have a government that they can work with. And the recent investments that we've made, we've invested $10.1 million in 2025 and $10.5 million in 2026 to support the implementation of the Encampment Action Plan. In December 2024, we signed the Unsheltered Homelessness Encampment Initiative bilateral agreement, which really helped and supported more folks from encampment into housing. And we're going to continue to do that great work. Like I said, we have some amazing staff who are doing some great work, and we're partnering with some really great service delivery organizations who have the experience, the expertise. They've been doing this work on the front lines for a very long time, and know a lot of these folks, have relationships with them, and housing has been the barrier. And we are behind. We're playing catch up. So we own and manage 12,037 units, both rural and in Winnipeg. 4,200 of those are managed by someone else, so sponsor managed. And then of those, 15% are undergoing repairs, redevelopment, or have no demand. And this is just a snapshot. And back to your question about Inglewood Manor. There's 9 vacant units, 5 are available for rental. 1 person was housed there this week, and there's no one on the wait list. So there's no demand for housing at Inglewood Manor. So if that member has folks that would like to be housed there, certainly, they can get in touch with Manitoba Housing. We'd certainly be more than happy to get those folks into those units, because we certainly don't want to see people unhoused. We want our housing is accessible to people. We have a rent geared to income, which is 30% of your income, and we want to make sure that people are in our housing and are using it. That is the purpose of Manitoba Housing. And certainly our investments are working, because we are, we've housed over 1,900 people, and over 700 of those have been in our Manitoba Housing buildings. We've invested more in tenant service coordinators, which has helped build relationships, but also has helped keep people tenanted. Under the former government, they cut and fired tenant service coordinators, and that was detrimental to these units, to these tenants, and keeping people supported and housed. They cut, the former government, the former PC government also cut security guards. And I know on this floor, members opposite have asked about that. And, this is a consequence of decisions that the former government made, whether it's cutting and firing tenant service coordinators, or cutting security guards, or cutting 55 police officers in our province. That is a consequence of the former government not investing in our housing, and certainly, holding up Bill 12 now. The members opposite, through the chair, can push her leader to pass that bill tomorrow. So I'd encourage her to speak to her leader and get that bill passed.
The honourable member for Morton Winkler.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Just a quick question about, we know that a lot of our affordable housing or the deeply affordable or rent geared to income housing units have or need wraparound services for whether it's mental health or anything else that they might need help with. What kind of, can you tell me, the minister tell me what supports the minister is offering to organizations that are already working in communities? Is there specific organizations that they assist with the support, wraparound supports? And a little bit about that and what communities might need that, what kind of support they might be needing outside of Winnipeg.
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Miigwech, Honourable Chairperson. So I'm going to start with the health authorities, the health regions. So in the Interlake East Regional Health Authority, so we fund there, and these are funding to health authorities and shared health for mental health and recovery services. So physician, psychiatry services, and addiction services. So Interlake Eastern Regional Health Authority, Southern Health, Sante Sioux, Prairie Mountain Health, Northern Regional Health Authority, Winnipeg Regional Health Authority, Shared Health, and then other service delivery organizations. And then for housing, these folks also offer mental health and addiction services, wraparound supports. So we have Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation, and I just really want to shout out like all of the the healthcare providers on the front lines that are doing this work, because they're doing some heavy lifting. They're doing some really heavy lifting, and I know we've heard in this house that when it comes to mental health and addictions that they need more supports, and certainly a supervised consumption site is something that they've been advocating for, because they know that folks will be connected to supports there, and that lives will be saved there, and people will have a safe place to consume there. So I just want to shout out those folks and just let them know that we see them, we value them, and we appreciate their work. And we are listening to them, and we're just so thankful for their work. So in Brandon, and Brandon is very, like all of these organizations that I'm going to outline, like they're all doing amazing work, and they've been really great partners. We have really close partnerships with all of these folks when it comes to working with Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation. They are really, Brandon is really coordinated. Like they have all their services, like they meet like probably weekly, and they talk about the folks, the relatives they call them, and how they're supporting each of them, and how the different resources they have, how they can make sure that they're getting the support that they have. We also have CMHA, Manitoba and Winnipeg, and they operate, they do such amazing work. I just saw Marion Cooper today. I was at Mood Disorders Association luncheon, and she was there. She was on a panel speaking, and they do tremendous amount of work. Like their staffing complement and the work that they do. They have a program in Brandon or Dauphin that they're operating for us, and I spoke about this the other day. The transformative work that they are doing with the participants that are in that building, and the mayor has spoke about this. Businesses have spoken about this, community organizations have spoken about this, just how successful this model is, because it's a collaborative approach. And, you know, they have a great MLA. The minister out there works collaboratively as well with them. And then we also have CMHA Swan Valley, and they were just here as well because we had Mental Health Week, Mental Health Act Week, so we did the proclamation. And there was a whole bunch of folks that are working in the mental health field, and, you know, just the amount of expertise that was in the rotunda. And I just can't say enough about these folks and how much heart they have. And they're in this field because they care about people and they want to help people. And, you know, they're so thankful that they have a government that's listening to them, that sees them, and that is working collaboratively with them, and that is helping to support and move Manitoba forward, quite frankly, and in collaboration with them.
Thank you, Minister. The member for Morton Winkler.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I don't know how to say that, what I should call you, but anyway, thank you. Great information, and I thank the minister for that information. It's really good to hear about these different organizations, specifically in Brandon. I think it's important that we definitely acknowledge all the different organizations and groups in our province that do so much work for us, or for our loved ones that need that help. So, frontline workers, everybody on the ground, it's so important to definitely say thank you always as much as we can. Just to mention about the Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation, they just had to close their community drop-in because of security concerns. So that's something that possibly the minister might want to just take note of, that's something that they might be needing some extra help with that. So thank you for that information. Just wanted to ask, so the minister mentioned different organizations in Brandon and all the health authorities. Is the minister able to just tell me what other roles the government's playing with organizations such as Slow Mission, other organizations that are outside the province or outside of Winnipeg, both in and outside? What kind of role does the government play with the wraparound services with organizations that are not connected to like any of the health authorities, or specifically in Brandon? Because we got that answer. Can you let me know? Can she let me know what other organizations and what kind of wraparound services they experience from the help of the government?
Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. So I just want to go back to Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation, and I just want to lift them up and lift that community up for, the work that they did in terms of finding a new location, supporting those folks. And again, they work collaboratively. They're not divisive in their approach. They came to us, let us know what was going on. We also worked with them, supported them through the process, because it's about meeting people where they're at, supporting them. And it's not about us and them, it's about we and centering we around individuals. And that's the difference between the previous government and this government. For us, it's about one Manitoba, and how do we support one another? And, when someone's struggling and something's going on and people need support, we know the consequences of what's happening in our province. And it's because of the de-investment of the previous government, whether that was the de-investment in policing, whether that was the frozen funding to municipalities, whether that was not investing in housing. That's a social determinant of how well people do. And of course, making sure that people have the supports and services that they need. And Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation worked with many different organizations. Like I said, they are pretty organized. And Mayor Fawcett came and we met, we talked with Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation, and they all worked together to find a different space to support the relatives. So I just want to uplift them for that and thank them for the work that they do, and just, we will always be on their side and support them in the work that they do, because we believe that we are all partners and we will walk beside. So other organizations that we support and we fund are CMHA in Thompson, Community Health and Housing Association, Dauphin Neighborhood Renewal Corporation, Ending Chronic Homelessness, End Homelessness Winnipeg, Nadinaway so that's homelessness shelter, Main Street Project, MKO, Manitoba Métis Federation. So in Brandon, they have a Housing First program where they provide wraparound services. Mount Carmel Clinic, Portage La Prairie, Mount Carmel Clinic. When I was a little girl, my kids went to daycare there. My brother and sister went to the old Ann Ross daycare when I was on Selkirk Avenue. It used to be an old house. Have lots of memories of Mount Carmel Clinic and the supports that they provided there. That was one of my primary healthcare providers growing up. It was a place of safety for a lot of us, and it still is a place of safety for a lot of folks. They provide so many different services there. Prairie Mountain Health, Red Road Lodge. And again, these are people who are on the front lines providing so many different supports. And I can't speak to all of the supports that all of these different organizations provide. Like if you look at Main Street Project, I'll go back to, my comments a couple of days ago. They're doing work that they should not be doing. They're reversing overdoses daily. And they shouldn't be doing that work. That's not their job. They aren't a supervised consumption site, but they become a supervised consumption site. Salvation Army, Samaritan House Ministries, 24/7 shelter operations, Salome Mission, Spence Neighborhood Association, Thompson Homeless Shelter, the Paw Homeless Shelter, West Central Women's Resource Center. And I just wanted to read a quote while I have a minute here. I wanted to remind the member, because the member kept saying this in our last, actually I'm going to save this for the next answer, but there's so much work that all of these organizations are doing, and I just want to lift them up for all of the work that they're doing, because they now have a government that is supporting them and that is providing the supports that they finally.
Thank you, Minister. The member for Morden Winkler.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you for all those. Those are great organizations, and they do great work. And I'm glad to hear you talk about them and let me know that they're all organizations that are partnering with the government to deliver services, wraparound services for housing and those in need. So that's really great. I do have a question. And just because this is something that's been brought up to me as the critic for housing and addictions and homelessness and mental health supports that were needed. I have a question for the minister, specifically just wondering, so she mentioned Salvation Army, and there's been so many that she's mentioned that are amazing organizations that are being that are helping our loved ones and our relatives and our friends and family with homelessness and addiction and mental health. So just wondering, I received a letter from an organization called Teen Challenge, who have a building that want to help people. They want to have units inside the building so that families can stay united, together while their loved ones are going through addiction treatment and recovery. And they have a really great program, and it's shown a lot of success. And they have commitment from both federal government and the city of Winnipeg, and they're just waiting for Manitoba to also add to that the third. They need all three levels of government to participate. And so I'm wondering if the minister can tell me where that's at and where the government is at, and if they're going to be supporting that initiative for housing. And it's just a great organization that I've found. So just wondering if she can explain when that funding will be, the third level will be added, and if and when and why that will happen. Thank you.
Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. So I just want to talk a little bit about our investments that we've made thus far. So as of March 2025, there's been a total of 1,221 units of social and affordable housing investments. And there'll be further supports, 76 million in capital funding, and we're going to continue with supporting to take off the boards and maintaining social and affordable housing to ensure that folks are getting into our housing. And that's the long-term goal, is to make sure that we're building up deeply affordable housing to ensure that folks are getting into housing with supports. So we've invested into rent relief. We've got over 2,000 households supported through that program. We opened up the Housing Starts Here portal, and that's a very collaborative approach. So it works with the city, it works with the feds, and it looks at what grants are out there, and it's a one-window approach. And we're super proud of that approach because, again, we're working in collaboration instead of someone looking for support from the province and having to go to the city and then having to go to the federal government. It's easier for folks to just come to one window and find that support there. And again, I just want to lift up our civil servants who are doing that work. Harnett does such an amazing job in supporting folks in navigating the Housing Starts Here portal. And Jamie also, just such a team approach those folks take. We have a centralized intake process. So we have what's called PDF funds, so project development funds where people can apply. Before it used to be, it used to take 36 months for people to develop their projects. They would apply for a loan. They would have to pay back a portion of that loan, and then they would have to raise so many dollars to complete their project development. But we've increased the amount of dollars that people can apply for. They can now apply up to $350,000 towards a PDF fund, and that decreases the amount of time that it takes to build. It decreases it by 50%. So it used to be 36 months, now it's down to 18. So again, helping and supporting. Also with that Housing Starts Here and the intake process, we help and support folks develop their proposals. So if their proposals aren't quite done, we help support them with that. We're also super proud with the tax credits that are going to be coming out for folks that are building affordable units, but even if they're not affordable, they will still get a tax credit, but if they're affordable, they'll get a higher tax credit. And then the 78 million that we're investing is pretty significant, and then the 44 million in maintenance, that's a huge investment. And then four more million in sponsor management to help those folks, something that the previous government wasn't providing. And I will, so we did receive a proposal from Teen Challenge and have been in active conversations with them to understand their needs, and we're always open to more opportunities. I've met with them, I've gone to tour their facility. It's actually my constituency, and I've been there a couple of times now and met with them, and they do some great work. So I want to uplift them for the work that they do, because they are, helping and supporting and providing a much needed resource that people need.
Thank you, Minister. The member for Warren Winkler.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Thank you very much for that information, and I appreciate that the minister has been there and seen it. I've also had the opportunity to go see, and I agree with her that they do good work and that they are definitely there to help those in the community that really just need that extra treatment and recovery and support. So that's great. Thank you for that information. Looking forward to hearing what kind of things the government will do to help Teen Challenge in the future. Hopefully soon, and it'd be great to get that that housing, supportive housing, and that treatment and recovery program going. It'd be really great to see that happen soon. My next question would be, we know that there's we're the highest percentages for intimate partner violence in Manitoba. Manitoba has the highest intimate partner violence percentage across the country of Canada. And it's something that we really, it's been on the top of my heart, but just to make sure that we can do everything we can to help women that are at risk, women with their families. So my question is just wondering, transitional housing specifically for at-risk women, what does the minister have in place right now, both rurally and in the city of Winnipeg? How many spaces of transitional housing spaces are available currently, or already being used in Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Thanks, Honourable Chairperson. So first of all, I just want to really uplift and honor all of those folks that are on the front line supporting our women and their families, because it's tough work. I was in a domestic abusive relationship. I had 2 young children and had to leave a relationship with kids, and it's not easy. You have to, take your belongings and leave somewhere where you shouldn't have to leave. It should be the other way around, but unfortunately the system's not built that way. And thankfully through Minnewayak, there is supports now for men. And because these are often the fathers of our children. And when I was in that relationship, I loved my partner. I didn't want my children not to have a father. But there wasn't a lot of support for men, for them to change their behavior, to get the supports that they needed to be good partners. And my children's father was a good father. He was a good dad. But he wasn't a good partner to me. And it wasn't all the time, but when the abuse would happen, it wasn't, it was not good. And when I chose to leave, it was because my kids started to see the abuse. So I just want to uplift all of those workers that do that work, because they are supporting not only the women but the children. And we are also putting supports in to support kids as well, because often our kids, and I was a teacher. Well, I'm still a teacher. I'm still an educator. We say a recovering educator, but we know that kids, when they experience or see that, there is a chance that they could become abused or be the abuser. So we have to change that and help, our kids understand that that's not okay. Because my first relationship was very much like my mom and dad. My dad was abusive towards my mom, and my mom was an alcoholic, and my first partner was an alcoholic, and he was abusive. And for me, that was normal, and we need to not normalize that for our kids. And we're doing that work to ensure that our kids get the supports that they need, so that they see that's not acceptable behavior. So our department funds 10 shelters. We own 10 shelters across the province for women. We spent 12 million over the last several years on capital upgrades. Wage, which is Minister Fontaine, under Minister Fontaine's portfolio, supports operational funding.
I'll just lightly remind the minister to refer to ministers by their portfolio or their constituency. The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Okay. The Minister of Families is the minister responsible for women and gender equity, which is the ministry that supports operational funding. So that's where they would ask those specific questions. We announced a partnership with Fisher River Cree Nation for the Reuben Block. That will have 13 transitional suites for women. And again, there's lots of work being done under the Minnewayak to support, empower, and uplift women. There's some projects that are being done right across our province. There's some in Brandon, and Salome has 40 beds. Nadinawaymak has 30 beds for women. West Central Women's Center. And then we have some announcements that we haven't made, but I'm looking forward to making those announcements, because again, these are supporting Manitobans, lifting them up and helping them to get the supports that they need. And again, I just want to uplift those that are on the front lines doing this work because it's so important that they know that this government sees them.
The honourable member for Morton Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I would like to ask a few questions about specifically mental health and some of the concerns that I've heard over the last year and a half or so as being the critic for mental health in our province of Manitoba. One of the questions, or one of the things I've heard a lot, is a lot of need and supports needed for children and youth specifically. I've heard from different groups, I've heard from teachers in schools that they're, after coming out of COVID and after the different things that have happened, that they're just finding that kids need more support, more mental health support. And so my question would be, and you know, there's so many people working in that, and we know that there's a shortage of those that are qualified and giving that mental health support to our youth and our children. What is the wait time for treatment currently for a psychologist for children and youth in the province of Manitoba?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Miigwech. I'll be really quick in my answer because I know the critic wants to close this out. So wait times vary depending on the region. There's 19 positions that were added to the system in psychiatry, and our government added residency trauma seats from 12, or increased from 12 to 17. And November 28th, the government announced $2.4 million for virtual crisis and consultation. We also announced $500,000 for youth eating disorder program, and beginning in 24-25, we invested $750,000 to Kid Think to reduce wait times for MATC, and we're going to continue to make investments. 1.1 million to expand Huddle to 2 more sites here in our province. So I want to thank the critic for all of their questions and the work that they're doing in this area. Miigwech.
The Honourable Member for Morton Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I have no further questions. I have lots of questions, but I appreciate the information and the time that we've been able to spend with the Minister on this. And I know that we both find that this is a very important role and portfolio. So I appreciate any information that she was able to give me. And that's it for me today. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to the resolutions. Resolution 24.2, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $44,250,000 for housing, addictions and homelessness, mental health and addictions for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 24.3, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $280,106,000 for housing, addictions and homelessness, the Manitoba Housing and Renewal Corporation, for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 24.4, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $88,251,000 for housing, addictions and homelessness, physician services, psychiatry, for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 24.5, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $313,681,000 for housing, addictions and homelessness, funding to health authorities for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 24.6, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $820,000 for housing, addictions and homelessness, costs related to capital assets of other reporting entities for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 24.7, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $15 million for housing, addictions and homelessness, loans and guarantees program for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 24.8, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $78 million for housing, addictions and homelessness, other reporting entities, capital investment for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass?
You're not.
We'll try that again. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. The last item to be considered for the estimates of this department is item 24.1 bracket A, the minister's salary contained in resolution 24.1. At this point, we request that all ministerial and opposition staff leave the chamber for the consideration of this last item. The floor is now open for questions. The honourable member for Morton Winkler.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I move that line item number 24.1A be amended so that the Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness salary be reduced to $1.
It has been moved by the honourable member for Morton Winkler that line item 24.1 bracket A be amended so that the Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness' salary will be reduced to $1. The motion is in order. Are there any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, is the committee ready for the question? Shall the motion pass? I hear a no. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. All those opposed to the motion, please say nay. In my opinion, the nays have it. The motion is accordingly defeated. Resolution 24.1, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $6,857,000 for housing, addictions and homelessness, finance and corporate services for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. This completes the estimates of the Department of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness. The next set of estimates to be considered by this section is for the Department of
Culture, Heritage, and Tourism.
Sport, Culture, Heritage, and Tourism. Shall we recess for 2 minutes? Recess. Agreed? Will the committee come back to order? The hour being 5 p.m. This House committee rise. Call in the Speaker. The hour being 5 p.m. This House is adjourned and stands adjourned until Tuesday at 10 a.m.